everybody. I'm glad you're here. My name is Ericka Kotab, and I'm a school psychologist here at Wagner. And one of the things that I've been doing for about the last 3 years is teaching mindfulness in the classroom. And so I thought we would just start the night off with just a 1-minute little mindfulness warm-up. So what I always tell kids when we get started on our very first lesson is that we're going to get into our mindful bodies. And mindful bodies have quiet feet, and quiet hands, and quiet mouths. And if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can do that, but you don't have to. You can leave your eyes open if you want. And I'll ring the bell. I'll keep my eyes open. My job is to make sure that you're safe, and so I can watch the time. And after 1 minute, I'll let you know when we're all done. All right. How does that feel? Felt long, yeah. And I actually gave you very little direction about what you were supposed to be doing during that time. And I don't normally do that with kids, but just to give you an idea for where we would go after I give them instruction about what a mindful body looks like, the easiest thing that we can do is practice mindful listening. And so I first have them start by listening to the sound of the bell. And then when they can't hear the sound of the bell any longer, they raise their hand. So their attention is focused on the sound of the bell. And then I have them do that again, but this time with their eyes closed so they can't use their friends as cues. So they listen to the sound of the bell and they raise their hand when the sound of the bell is gone. And then I tell them, now I would be kind of silly if I walked around all the time with this bell. And I'm pretty sure all of you don't have a bell that you carry around either. So how can we do mindful listening without a bell? And so then what we do is we get into our mindful bodies, and we have a curious mind about all of the things that we can hear when our bodies are very quiet. And so I give them the task of listening for as many sounds in the classroom and outside of the classroom, or even within their bodies that they might hear. So oftentimes they hear things like people shifting in their seat, or they can hear breathing, or the sound of the fan or the projector, sounds outside in the hallways, even grumbling tummies. So that is a way that I introduce them to how to be present in the right here and right now. And that's essentially what mindfulness is, being aware of what's happening in the present moment. So my own personal history with mindfulness started after my son passed away. I was at a yoga session, and afterwards we just lay and we are mindful for a short period of time. And I just became aware of all of the feelings that I was having really deep inside of me, and I just cried and cried and cried. And it felt so good to acknowledge that those feelings were there and to just let that go. Without judgment. Like, it was okay to be sad, and it was okay to be searching for joy, and it was okay to be angry sometimes, and okay to be scared. So that was my first experience. Then I began to explore it a little bit more, and I have a son, Braddock. He's 10 now. And one of the things that we do at nighttime is we keep a journal of 3 good things that happen during the day. The 3 good things strategy is a research-based strategy that really is kind of like one antidote to depression. So it calls to mind things that we're thankful for. They can be little things like, I always use this example, I don't even like corn dogs, but you know, kids like corn dogs. So it might be that they really liked what was for lunch today. Or it might be the way that, Radek puts this one in his 3 good things journal frequently. He likes super snugs at night, so that's one of his favorite things. And then, so you have the benefit of calling up the things that were pleasant about your day. So it puts a positive focus on the day. But then it has the added effect of you can go back and look at the things that you've written down in the past weeks and months and years and go, I remember when we did that. That was so fun. So you have like this, you get to experience it all again. And so it's a really powerful way for kids who might be feeling some feelings of depression or just feeling healthy. It's a great way to be reminded of gratitude. But then, as tying that into mindfulness, we also did nighttime mindfulness. And so we would just do things like scanning your body to notice where you were feeling like tense and where you were feeling relaxed, maybe what parts of your body were hot or cool or fidgety. And then just using that as a strategy to go to sleep. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, I should say, mindfulness is a way to help us fall asleep at night. It's a good relaxation technique. So I decided that I was going to further my knowledge about this. And it was prompted, we had a presentation here at school about childhood trauma, and she had mentioned mindfulness. So it had been on my radar, and then I heard it again, and I thought, you know, I need to look a little bit more into this. So I took some classes through Mindful Schools. I took a fundamentals course and then a mindful educators course. And they provided a curriculum for teaching mindfulness. But before I did that, I spent a year just kind of making stuff up. Using, well, not making up, but using Pinterest as an inspiration point. So the strategies there were not very, I don't know, maybe not very well thought out. They're good strategies, and I use them still today, but I use the Mindful Schools curriculum as a basic framework, and then I add in these other pieces that I had used the year before. And then we had some time where we have a greenhouse here at school, and we did mindful Mondays for teachers in the greenhouse before school. I really didn't catch on too great, but it was a resource, and maybe it's something that we just need to keep exploring and looking at again. So that's how mindfulness came to be at Wagner School. Just a little history on mindfulness in general. So back in 1979, a man by the name of John Kabat-Zinn was using mindfulness as a strategy for chronic pain. And he found that if you could acknowledge the pain that they were having and be okay with it, approach it with curiosity and without judgment, that the chronic pain was lessened. And so from there, it moved into the mental health world in the 1980s, and then in the 2000s, it moved into schools. Some of the benefits of mindfulness for students are that it helps students become self-aware. It helps them learn how to regulate their emotion and their self-control, which would be behavioral regulation. It improves attentional stability, or being able to attend and focus. It increases a sense of calm. It decreases feelings of anxiety and depression. It increases the readiness to learn, or space available to be able to learn. It increases empathy and increases the likelihood of conflict resolution. Pretty powerful strategy, huh? It does a lot of stuff, a lot of benefits. So, as I mentioned before, mindfulness is essentially paying attention to what's happening right now. So in general, mindfulness has 3 qualities. One of the qualities is that it's intentional. Like we can kind of be like in the moment, but not like intentional about the moment. So really focusing on the moment with intentionality, having an openness and curiosity about what's happening in the moment, and then just observing it without trying to control it. So giving it some acknowledgement. And when we do that, we really give ourselves some power and freedom, because there's what's happening in our body. We'll say there's a stimulus, and then it's how it affects our body. And if we can be aware of that, it creates a space between what happens and how we react to that. And then if there's that space, it allows us to think a little more critically, a little more clearly, so that we can make a choice that maybe is in the best interest of the people around us, the best interest of ourselves, so that we don't do things that are harmful to others or harmful to ourselves. What I mentioned, that mindfulness is being aware of the body sensations. So that's probably about lesson 4, I think, in the mindful curriculum. And just to give you a flavor for what we do with that, so I have the kids hold their hands in their lap. So I want them to be able to distinguish between feeling, like touching, and feeling, which is sensing with your body. So I want them to become aware of the fact that they have feet. So I'll give you just a couple seconds to become aware of your feet and how you know that they're there. All right, so what are some of the signals that your body was giving you that let you know that your feet were attached to the bottoms of your legs?
Pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I have a visual image that they're there.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So another thing that I do with kids is I have them rub their hands together like this, and I tell them we're going to make some magic. So you can go ahead and try this. Go ahead and rub your hands together. You can rub them briskly. So what we might be noticing right now is the feeling of our hands rubbing together. They're getting warm, right? Maybe we can feel whether our hands are rough or smooth. Okay, a little faster. Okay, now put your hands out in front. Could you feel that?
Mm-hmm.
That sensation of like tingliness or electricity? Yeah, so when kids are aware that their bodies have these sensations, and that those sensations are important to us because they keep us safe, they keep us healthy, they keep us out of trouble, that then we can have a little bit more self-control over the actions that we choose. I was given the example of riding Labor Day rides. Like you get that feeling like maybe your stomach's doing some somersaults, and maybe you're getting a little sweaty and you can feel yourself flushing. It's your body telling you that you're going to do something dangerous. So we need to listen to those cues from our body. But they can also be cues like you're feeling frustrated, or you're feeling sad, or you're really tired. So I feel like that is a good starting place for kids. So what else do I want to? I'll talk about neuroscience in a little bit, but I thought I would share with you some of the other things that I keep in my little mindfulness toolbox. 12 minutes left. So I call this my calm down jar. So when you shake it, you can see that it has glitter in it. And I used clear glue in there to create some suspension so the glitter falls slowly. And so we can use this image to represent what happens in our brain when we get upset or excited, that it's kind of like swirling all around in there, and that we need to give our brain and our body time to calm down. So this is a really great strategy for helping kids calm down if they're not able to regulate themselves. So I just a little brain lesson here. I'm going to use my little cue sheet here because these are really cute examples. So if we think of the front of our brain as the smart one, so the prefrontal cortex, he's the one who's like delegating, telling the rest of the brain to get to work, or telling that it's time to not work, or we got to do this first, and then this, and then this. So it is the control center. And then we have the hippocampus, which is kind of deep inside of our brain. We refer to that as the librarian. So this is sort of the emotional center of the brain. So the connection, and then we'll throw in the amygdala too, because the amygdala is pretty important. That's the jumpy superhero. So when our body is threatened, we do things like fight, flight, or freeze, right? So that part of our brain is telling us to do those things to protect us. And when we're in a state of anxiety or fear or discomfort, that part of the brain takes over. And the prefrontal cortex, that the smart one who's supposed to be doing all the delegation, can't do that. It's like your brain is putting on the gas and it can't put on the brakes. And then that space between action and reaction is very small. And so we want to teach kids how to increase that space. So mindfulness has an effect on each of those structures of the brain, but it also has an effect on the density and the thickness of brain tissue. So I always tell kids, let's think of it like a brain workout. So if I were to say, I'm going to go out to the parking lot and I'm going to lift a car. I ask the kids, you think I can do that? And they're like, no, of course you can't. Well, why not? Well, because you're weak. you're right. And so I said, well, what do I need to do to be able to be strong enough to lift the car? Well, you'd probably have to go to the gym, you probably have to work out, you probably have to eat right. Well, lo and behold, those are the things that we have to do to our brain to get it to get stronger. So mindfulness is like a brain workout. It's creating denser brain tissue so that it can perform better. And then it has improved function, which is things like clarity, regulation, awareness, mood, and memory. Who couldn't use that, right? One of the things that I really, really love about mindfulness is the notion that when you're sitting mindfully and you're thinking about right here and now, and say you're using the strategy of counting. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3. What's for lunch tomorrow? I'm really hungry right now. Can't wait to get home. It's been a really long day. You know, and when I started, that's literally what it was like. I could count to about 3 before my mind wandered. And that's a perfectly normal thing to do. I shouldn't feel bad about that. You guys shouldn't feel bad about that. So what I can do to lengthen the amount of time that I can focus on that task is I can perform it regularly. I also tell kids that in order for us to be able to access, I ask them, how many of you have moms or dads or teachers who tell you when you're upset, take a deep breath and calm down? Have we used that strategy? Of course we have. That's a great strategy. But it doesn't work well if we haven't practiced it ahead of time. That's like saying, go run a marathon without having to work out first. So, or many workouts, a long, extensive training program. So mindfulness is a way to give that brain a workout so that when it comes time to take those deep breaths, we actually know how to do that. So we're going to do 2 more little mindfulness activities, and then we'll call it a night. So I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to you can put your hands out. I'm not going to put something squishy or yucky in your hand. I'm going to put something nice in your hand. And so we're just going to do some mindful, touching, okay? Okay, go ahead, and I want you, with an open mind, without peeking, go ahead and experience what it is you're holding with openness and curiosity. You can become aware of its shape, its size, its weight, its texture. All right, you can open your eyes and take a look at what I gave you. Was what you were holding surprise you? Or did you know right away?
I can smell it.
Yeah. So I love to use things from nature because I feel like our kids are. I saw that up there. I didn't know who it was. I thought maybe it was yours, Jason. Because I think that being in touch with nature is a really precious thing. All right, so I'm going to go back to breathing a little bit before we wrap things up for the night, just to talk to you a little bit more about breathing. So I'm learning more and more about this all the time. I am not an expert, but I'm just someone who approaches mindfulness with curiosity and openness. And I learned just probably about a week ago that, like intuitively I knew this because I know that when we focus on the in-breath, that can make us feel anxious. And that when we focus on the out-breath, that is more calming. But I really didn't understand the science behind it. So when you have a nursing background, you could probably...
So is Teresa.
Oh, okay, so you guys could fill me in on if my understanding about this is right. So the oxygen in our blood. So we can have too much or we can have too little, and it has differing effects on our body. And really we want to be sort of like in the middle. We don't want to have too much, we don't want to have too little. And our body regulates that through diet, but also through respiration, right? So when we breathe in too much, we can have too much oxygen in our body. And so also it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. Whereas if we can lower that rate of oxygen, and oxygen is good in our blood, don't get me wrong there, but we can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's like a little nervous system workout. We can put that in our nervous system toolbox. It also, does it have an effect on the vagus nerve? I'm thinking there's a connection to the vagus nerve.
Keep talking. I mean, I gotta make a connection.
Since I'm on video, I probably better not go there. I don't want to say something incorrect. So we'll just leave it at having a balanced breath. So my husband, who sleeps with his mouth open, healthiest breathing is with your mouth closed, because when it's open, it's unfiltered, too much oxygen. So a strategy that they gave, sorry Dave, that they gave me the strategy is you can actually tape your lips closed to encourage nose breathing at night to help balance the amount of oxygen in your blood and create a more relaxed state in your body. So a couple breathing techniques that I use with kids is starfish breathing. They really, really like this one. This is their favorite one. So I have them put their hand on their belly. In the previous lesson, before I introduced this, is we notice that our bellies move up and down when we breathe. And we talk about how that's pushing air out and then bringing air in. So that they have an awareness that their belly moves. So we put our hand on our belly, and then we trace the outside of our starfish. So I always tell them we go out to the tip and in to the dip. Out to the tip and into the dip. And so we breathe to that pattern. Breathing out and breathing in. Breathing out and breathing in. Breathing out breathing in. And I'm probably going too fast because ideally we should be taking about 8 breaths per minute. Although most of us don't do that, most of us are somewhere between 10 and 12. So that's one strategy that I show them to help keep them focused. It's like a motor activity that helps kids stay focused on their breathing. I also give them the strategy. So deep breathing isn't necessarily good, but elongated breathing is good. So what we do is I imagine them stretching out their breath like a rubber band. So we use breathing as an anchor. So if our mind starts to wander, we use that anchor to bring it back in. So we start off by saying, breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, and then we stretch it. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I know I sound kind of goofy, but it's stretching out the words. And then what we can do, if we want to sort of take it up to the next level, we do a pattern of breathing that's 4, 7, 8. So we breathe in for 4 seconds, we hold it for 7 seconds, and then we breathe out for 8. So let's try that. So I will do it in the shape of a square. So every time that I change direction is when you do the next thing. So let's take a breath in and out. Now let's breathe it in for 4, 2, 4, hold it 7, out. In, out. Hold, got the hold, sorry. Hold. Out. All right. So, do you feel noticeably calmer after that pattern of breathing? All right. So I just did a workshop where we did all kinds of breath work. And I was like normally able, we were sitting, we just kind of done a light workout. I was able to hold my breath for 16 seconds. Mentally, I thought I could hold it way longer than that. But when I counted, and I did it 3 times, it was only 16 seconds. I was a little disappointed in myself, although our instructor said, if you're above 12, you're okay. So then we did it again, but we hyperoxygenated our blood. No kidding. I held my breath for 75 seconds. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty incredible what your body can do to accommodate. So since it's time to go, we'll end with 1 more minute of mindfulness. Now that your neurons have had a little mental workout tonight, they're feeling a little stronger, it should be easier for you to focus on the right here and right now, exercising our concentration muscle for 1 minute. And you can use any of the strategies that we talked about tonight, the mindful or the starfish breathing, the 4, 7, 8 breathing. You can count. Other ones I shared. I think that's all. Or listening for sounds. You could do mindful listening too. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Ericka.